Hello, Phantom fans. My name is Sam Olmstead. His name is Justin Irwin. This is the Dump and Chase podcast. One thing we have been guilty of in the past is that after a bad weekend, we tend to be a little doom and gloom. But even though the Phantoms had a rough weekend in Cranberry, we want to try and present a more calm and inspiring version of the show. So with that being said, Justin, my great and wonderful friend, how are you today?
Most excellent. Thank you for asking.
Fantastic. How was your time spent in Cranberry?
Oh, it was incredible. Good food, time spent with friends. What more could you ask for? The part I loved the most was spending my hard-earned severance pay to watch last year's Phantoms get whipped up and down the ice by a Waterloo team that looked like us the day before.
I know. Good thing we went through all the changes in the offseason and then start the season exactly how we left off last season. We might as well just burn it down at this point.
Burn it down!
Burn it down! Well, calm and inspiring lasted all of 30 seconds. I only said 10, 15 times that I was not going to be able to get through that without laughing.
And you were right, 10 or 15 times.
I was right.
I thought I would make it a little bit longer.
All right. Anyways, hello everyone, and welcome to the Dump and Chase podcast. Yes, it was a rough weekend. We're not going to be all that doom and gloom, and I got tears rolling down my cheeks right now. Wow. So that's how we're starting this episode.
I have no idea.
Oh Lord. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, the Phantoms, of course, kicked off the season this last week in Cranberry. Did not go exactly the way we hoped it would. So, yeah, we're going to be going over that in this episode. Of course, looking ahead to this weekend, news, some recent, some in the last couple weeks. So, yeah, the first breaking news was discovered tonight. We had the season ticket pickup party at the Cranberry Center this evening, just finished up a few hours ago here. Yeah.
Welcome to 2021, 2022.
Take a breath. So yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, so we get our tickets, I get home, I'm going through sorting everything out, and I noticed that there are no tickets for home games in December. There was a 3-game series, a 3-and-3 series with Dubuque from December 10th to the 12th. There were no tickets for these games. Yeah, I look on the USHL website. It's listed that those games are there. I looked on the Phantoms website, and it had all the games in December listed as away games. So I reached out to a couple members of the Phantoms organization, end up finding out those games, December 10th to the 12th versus Dubuque, are now away games at Dubuque. Essentially, long story short, that weekend at the Cranberry Center, Disney on Ice will be coming in. So can't say exactly what happened there, but yeah, those games are now away. As it stands right now, that means Youngstown will play Dubuque 6 times this season. All 6 of those games will be in Dubuque. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of a trade-off or what the deal is there. More information as we get it, but that was something we just discovered tonight.
The power of the mouse.
The power of the mouse. But no, we had the pickup party. Got to see a lot of people we haven't seen all summer. A lot of the team was there, coaches were there, just kind of working our way around the room, getting to talk to everybody. I finally got my jersey. It will be debuting this Saturday night. I finally got my jersey. That was a very special moment. Another special moment, we got our press passes. So based off what I said a couple episodes ago, we are definitely certifiable now. we have the badges and lanyards to prove it.
Yes. With great power comes great responsibility.
I've heard that word before.
Very rarely from my mouth.
Yeah. I'll look it up after the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, not too shabby of a night. I had my wife with me. It was her birthday, so Just told everybody I was taking her to a lounge in Youngstown for her birthday. I didn't have to go into the exact details, but that's what I was telling people. Had two of my three sons with me. My youngest son, Dash, has already picked out his favorite players, Trey Taylor and Ocean Wallace.
If you ask me, Dash was the life of the party.
Yeah. A little more than I wanted him to be, but yeah. This is what happens when you don't get out of the house much. There's a lot of pent up energy that needs to be let go.
You gotta let him socialize every once in a while.
But yeah, Trey Taylor, Ocean Wallace came over, got down, started talking to him. He is very obsessed with Minecraft right now, so that's where most of the conversation was. By the time we left the Cavelli Center, got in the car and was driving away, he was throwing a fit in the back seat, wanting to know where Ocean is and wanting to know where Trey is. So apparently he's picked out his favorite players for the year. So thank you to those guys for keeping him occupied for a few minutes. It was much more than any of the rest of us were able to do for the time we were there.
You guys can't get traded now.
Yeah. Yeah, so like we said, this past weekend, as far as I hope everybody knows, the Fall Classic in Cranberry took place. I was not there. Justin, you were there. You stayed all 4 days. You almost made it through all of the USHL games.
I left early a couple of days just to kind of beat the rush out.
Had a few live streams you did from there. Our friend Teddy Smuda made a cameo in one of them unknowingly. To where he's actually the thumbnail on YouTube is you sitting there and Teddy standing behind you talking to you.
Yeah, that was unplanned there. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a reason why I, at that point was set up down there. The Phantoms were hitting the ice. I kind of wanted to catch the vibe, and yeah, so some fans wandered into frame. Not a big deal.
Not so much the Phantoms games themselves, but the Fall Classic is basically your Disney World every year. How your time there, how was it for you? Just the atmosphere, everything going, maybe not so much specifically the Phantom games, we'll get to that, but
yeah,
just everything else going on around it.
Well, I mean, you have Penguins practice going on in the morning, which this year has been, shall I say, less eventful. Not a lot of the star caliber players on the ice to start the season. I'm really disappointed. This is the first year they're hosting it that Sergei Gonchar wasn't out skating around collecting pucks. I liked watching him skate around more than watching Crosby or Malkin or any of those guys anyway. But you had tons of hockey going on, some youth games, the USHL games. Place was packed. I've been there every year, through, staying through most of the games. This was the first year I got there, more than a half an hour before the games even started, and I was in overflow parking. So, yeah, a lot of going on. So, very busy atmosphere. Just great to be back.
Okay, so now getting into the games themselves. The Phantoms on Thursday played the Lincoln Stars. That was a 3-2 loss. If you follow me on Twitter, I believe sometime here in the future we're going to have something about my Twitter account and the amount of followers I have. We have something in the works on that. I actually have no idea what it is, but Justin has a few ideas. There's a milestone we need to hit here. But yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, the past couple seasons I've put out a tweet keeping track of which Phantoms player scores the first goal of the season for the Phantoms. This year, the newest, last year it was Cole Birch, who had the first Phantoms goal of the season. This year, the newest member of that club was Ryan Alexander. But yeah, in the end, that was a 3-2 loss for the Phantoms. Friday versus Waterloo, I would say it was a train wreck, but if you go on YouTube, I've seen some pretty impressive train wrecks. It was not impressive, we'll put it that way. That was a 2-0 loss for Youngstown. Now we joked at the beginning about the whole doom and gloom and everything else. The only two things that I will really bring up, as far as the doom and gloom, and we'll kind of move on from that, the Phantoms ended up being the only USHL team to leave Cranberry without a singular point. Muskegon was... Honestly, I think we agree on this. Muskegon probably hands down was the worst team at the Fall Classic.
Yeah, they had massive issues. Their own zone. It was incredible how bad they played.
At no point in either of their games did they lead, but yet they still somehow walked away with a point.
Yeah. I was laughing at points.
And then the Phantoms tied with Cedar Rapids for the least amount of goals scored during the Fall Classic, which was 2, but Cedar Rapids somehow got a win with only 2 goals on the weekend. They were able to get a win. Yeah, it was really a tale of 2 games. The game on Thursday with Lincoln, there was even though the Phantoms ended up not winning that game, a lot of that due to Lincoln's goaltending. There was so much to like in that game. There was a lot of optimism coming out of that game that, we didn't get the win, but already this team looked so much better than what we saw last season. And then you get into the game on Friday, and this team looked like the team last season.
So much to be a parody.
Yeah. And Waterloo was a team that when they played on Thursday, they looked like us last season. So yeah, it was... Okay, so with all that, we're going to get into 4 points. So for anybody new who wasn't listening towards the end of last season or just didn't remember, what we do to recap games here now is what we call 4 points. This is quite simply, we go back and forth. This is what we liked from the last weekend, what we didn't like, what our favorite moment was, and the weekend MVP. So to kick off 4 points, what we liked, I will say what I liked from this last weekend was the goaltending. The past couple of seasons, the goaltending has been shaky at best. We have been removed from the years of Ivan Kolbakov and Ivan Prosvatev. Those moments when maybe like the system breaks down, you can rely on them to, make a save and, kind of pick the defense up. We didn't really have that luxury the last couple seasons. Especially the game versus Waterloo, it really could have got away. The score could have been a lot worse in that game than 2-0. Kyle Chavette, again, just this improvement we've seen from him over the summer, and then coming into this first regular season game, just leaps and bounds of his improvement. And, a lesser goaltender, that score could have been a lot worse than 2-0. But yeah, for me, at least that part gave me a lot of hope, even in the Friday game. Was just the level of play from both Owen Bartoskevich and Kyle Chavette.
Yeah, and it was a even performance between the two. It wasn't like one was significantly better than the other, or one had bad stretches. Neither one of them could be faulted.
Okay, so from this past weekend, what did you like?
Game 1, just the obvious improvement that we saw in that game. Let's throw out the Waterloo game for right now. There were so many key pieces that seemed to be clicking a lot better than they were last year. The puck support was better. Guys were supporting each other. We saw a lot better north and south. There wasn't, egregious turnovers at the blue line. Some guy skates across the blue line, leaves the puck, and nobody else is there to pick it up. Things like that. Just a lot better than what we saw last year. Those frustrating little things that drove us nuts. The blind backhand passes from behind the net, etc. You didn't see a lot of that.
Yeah.
So if we can get back to that going forward, then, again, throw out the Waterloo game, forget about it.
Okay, so what we didn't like this last weekend, for me, it boiled down to the Phantoms power play. The Phantoms penalty kill combined on the weekend was 7 for 8, which is that I'll take that any weekend. The Phantoms power play combined over the 2 games 0 for 9. I understand there were extenuating circumstances as far as practice was concerned, being able to practice the power play, location of the power play being practiced at. But yeah, that was just a ton, especially in that game with Lincoln. They were 0 for 6, went 0 for 3 with Waterloo. Just kind of a lot of wasted opportunities. And you never really you maybe saw one or two little flurries, but for the most part, it was just a lot of passing around the perimeter, a lot of chasing the puck, chasing the puck back down to your own end and trying to get set up again. Once the season gets going, then being able to practice at the Cavelli Center, being able to practice on full rinks, hopefully will help. But yeah, for me, that was the killer this weekend, was their power play.
Yeah, obviously 0 for 9. Not only are you wasting your opportunities, you're kind of sucking your own momentum out at that point. That's, more of a win for the other team. So, yeah, what I didn't like, just the obvious complete lack of plan it seemed like we had in the second game. I said to throw out the Waterloo game, but you just have to look at that and wonder what was the game plan. We came out and again we just chased the puck around. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just Waterloo took the puck and we scurried around.
Yeah.
Chinese fire drill. If the Benny Hill theme was public domain, that's I'd be showing you a time lapse with the Benny Hill theme.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next one, I will make the point. We are fully aware this is only 2 games into the season. There is a long way to go. By doing this, we're just kind of looking at it through the window of just this past weekend. But we do understand it's the beginning of the season. Improvements are going to be made, everything else. As much as making jokes for entertainment purposes, we are fully aware of that. We're not ready to write the season off yet. We got a long way to go.
Yeah. Again,
it's what I saw in the Thursday game gives me enough hope to not worry so much about what happened in the Friday game.
Yeah. Again, let's just try to forget about that one for now. Other than, obviously we have to kind of report on it. It happened.
So going into my favorite moment of the weekend, and it's kind of a hokey one, but for me, but just the season finally starting. It's one of those things in the past you almost took for granted until the season was taken away from us, and it's ever since then. There's so much more of an appreciation, for these type of events. Even for like preseason games, going and watching a preseason game, there's so much more of an appreciation for it. The season kicking off, the season starting on time, which is something we didn't have last year. Starting at a time when it normally does. We had to wait like an extra month. So there's just, once it was taken away from us and things changed the way they did, there's just so much more of an appreciation when these things happen the way they're supposed to happen. For me, that was just being able to sit down and watch a regular season game in Cranberry at the end of September. For me, that was absolutely my favorite moment of the weekend.
And I guess for my favorite moment, to build onto that, being back at Cranberry, the UPMC, at the end of September, we'd done it, 4 years prior, and not having it last year, kind of left you a little bit, hollow there at the beginning, trying to come up with, scouting reports on teams that you haven't seen. So yeah, I got to watch all USHL member teams play, at least some. So, I get to, like you said, it's my Disneyland, and, just being back there, I'm appreciative.
All right, so for me, my weekend MVP is split between 2 players, but the same position. My weekend MVP goes to Owen Bartoskevich and Kyle Chavette. They were by and far the highlight of the weekend. Both of them combined for the 2 games, shots and saves combined, they were 66 for 70, 2.04 goals against average, a 943 save percentage. on most weekends, for one goaltender to have those numbers on a single night, you would pretty much guess that was a win, which was kind of more the frustrating part of how the weekend ended up. But yeah, like I said, we've seen shaky goaltending the past couple years. It hasn't been consistent. We saw 2 absolutely consistent games in goal. Not only consistent, but consistent to the point of they both played extremely well on Thursday and Friday. So yeah, those 2 right there are my weekend MVPs.
And I can't argue with either one of those, obviously. So I guess I'm going to throw the MVP to, how about the UPMC Lemieux Sports Center for hosting, and most importantly, the Training Table Cafe. They fed me through the weekend. Let me tell you something. The chicken Alfredo is dynamite. Best Alfredo I've had in quite a long time. All the food there is good. The pizza is outstanding. Quesadillas, turkey bacon wraps, burgers. Not your typical arena concessions, let me tell you.
Okay, so with the weekend weekend games themselves out of the way, how about we take a look at some recent roster moves? So the last week kind of leading up to the Fall Classic, we saw a couple last-minute trades for the Phantoms. One of them was they picking up Kyle Bettens from Cedar Rapids. That was for draft picks, and Primo Self from Dubuque. Youngstown picked up again for more draft picks. Both of these players were on the ice at the Fall Classic for the Phantoms. Both of them looked ridiculously impressive for kids who were in other systems all of preseason and then came into Youngstown at the last minute. Yeah, it looked like they slotted right in. Both did not look like they had many transitional issues. Starting with a new team right before the season started. Both of them were very impressive.
Yeah, this is something, we see frequently prior to the start of the season. Teams cut players, you only can have so many 20-year-olds, etc. So you want to get something out of them, and occasionally players just get cut and find another camp. But yeah, I guess Cedar Rapids and Dubuque didn't want to go empty-handed, and we were glad to take them.
Another bit of news, anybody who saw the roster sheets coming into these games, Morgan Winters, the Phase 2 first-round pick, was listed on injured reserve. You were able to get more information on him at the Fall Classic.
Yeah, I've heard from reliable sources, and I have a policy. I don't really, even when given, don't like to give exact dates or anything like that. But with this one, I'm going to say weeks, not months.
And then one we had kind of talked about has been missing from everything as far as we've known. Steven Sardarian, Russian forward. He was the Phantom Phase 2 second round pick. He was listed on the protected list, listed on the final roster. Apparently hasn't made it to the United States yet. We're told there was visa issues, and that kind of lines up with what we've heard from a lot of other teams in the league of European players, Russian players having trouble getting into the United States, all sorts of so it isn't really so much a Youngstown problem as it's been a USHL problem with getting players from that part of the world over here. And that was another one, as far as you were told, that should be cleared up. We should be seeing him here sooner than later.
Yeah. Actually, he might have already arrived. I was told that, this week, probably. It's even possible we'll see him in the lineup this weekend, but I'm not going to obviously hold my breath on that one. Getting a guy in from overseas and getting him acclimated, it might take a little bit more time, but stranger things have happened. So we'll see. But he should be in the lineup very soon.
Okay, so with the roster moves out of the way, how about we talk about what may be the shortest weekend preview we have ever done on the show? When you're coming into the season, you start the season, you'll have your first home game and you got to figure out who the U17s are from the NTDP. These were all kids that were playing youth hockey last year. And as we've learned over the past couple years, kind of youth hockey, high school hockey, prep hockey, the numbers can be a little deceiving. So you can't really use that as a gauge. We've been burned on that a couple times in the last couple years.
Yeah, and I mean, I did not get to see the youth games at the Fall Classic last year. I mean, yeah, I know nothing about most of these guys. I'm looking for players whose relatives I've seen play. And yeah, I've got another Slaggert, and Yannick Pro's kid. Anybody remember Yannick Pro, 14-year-old NHL? Yeah.
But yeah, so this coming weekend, Friday, October 1st, the Phantoms will be traveling to Plymouth to take on the USA U17s. I believe you are traveling up for that game.
I do intend to, yes. I did not get to any games up there last year, so this is another one of those, just thankful to be heading up.
Again, I will ask you to delay any tweets. There is quite a bit of lag between when it happens in real time and when it's broadcast on Hockey TV.
And you know how fast my thumbs work on the tweets, so that's sad.
I want to say a couple years ago you spoiled an overtime game for me. Like 40 seconds before it happened when I was watching it. So yeah, this Friday the Phantoms are traveling up to Plymouth. This is a home and home weekend. So on Saturday, October 7th, the Phantoms will kick off their home schedule at the Cavelli Center against the same U17s. That is a 7:05 puck drop. They're also doing a $2 beer promotion for that game, $2 beers up until the halfway point of the second period. But yeah, again, these are kids who were all youth players last year. Of course, a lot of them are highly touted, but at the same time, the U18s were at the Fall Classic, so this will be the first time seeing anything from the U17s. So, I mean, on our end, we know next to nothing about this team other than their names and numbers.
I'm doing whatever research I can, and I'm coming up with nothing really useful. So, it is what it is.
I can't. We did this last season. Is it the U17s that has the coach that looks like Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore?
He might be doing the U18s this year, and the other guy doing the U17s. They used to do that. Like one guy would take a group and have them both years.
Well, we'll look into that because we'll probably be flashing that picture again on here and on social media before long.
It is what it is. He looks like Shooter McGavin.
Okay, so we are coming down to the end of this episode. So cue the creepy carousel music and let's get out of here.
Faster than I got out of Cranberry after the Phantoms lost.
I paused there so to give a spot for the music to play.
Yeah, well, you can just delete my doom and gloom.
Oh, I know. Okay, so like I said, we're at the end of the episode. As always, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube as well as the audio-only version on your favorite podcast service. Now, if we are not listed on your favorite service, I'm not sure what to tell you at this point. I am now receiving emails daily from podcast sites I've never heard of that picked up the RSS feed and listed us on their sites. So yeah, at this point, unless you're using like some obscure like podcast service from Belarus, we may not be listed on that. You might want to look a little more mainstream, but
check in Germany.
Yeah, it's pretty far and wide right now. I don't think whatever you use, you should have trouble finding us. Also, don't forget to check out hockeyfan.com. Justin's blogs are off and running. The weekend previews, the weekend recaps. You've gotten like 2 or 3 in a row, which is a lot better than you did last season. So you're already off to a pretty hot start there.
Don't expect it to continue forever.
There's a ton of information you can get there. Again, they're a lot more thorough and in-depth than we get on here. Now that the season's in full swing, they're absolutely a must-read every weekend. Also, we can be found on OhioHockeyDigest.com, which is the #1 website in the state of Ohio for coverage of every level of hockey in the state, from Pee Wee to the NHL. All of these links, as well as the links to our social media, can be found in the description. Check out and bookmark our Linktree site. That is a one-stop shop. It has all of our links, all of our sites, whatever we have on there, social media accounts. It's all on there, all on one page. And most of all, as always, thank you to all of our listeners. Whether you are a long hauler or brand new to the show, it absolutely means the world to us that you take a few minutes out of your day to listen to this nonsense.
Especially after that opening.
Yeah, and for anybody who didn't tune out after listening to the intro, thank you. But yeah, the season's in full swing now. We have a lot of plans, a lot of ideas for this year. So we hope you'll continue to follow along with us throughout this season. So for Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. Thanks for tuning in. The next episode is only a week away.